Welcome to Tell It to the Bees. My name's Arlene, I'm an artist and herbalist, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a home for some solitary bees. And we're going to be using some recyclable materials, and we're also going to be using some natural materials. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get started on making our little home for our bees. So the main thing you're going to need is a container that is going to house the bee nest. So you can use anything really, as long as it has one end of it is a sealed end. So what we're going to be doing really is making like a little hollow for your bee to go in. It's going to be insulated within here. So we don't want drafts going all the way through. So what they want is something with a sealed end at one side. So I've just got a range of things here. So I've got like a glass jar, a bean can or a soup can, plant pot. This is another old plant pot. So something like that. Oh, plastic container. Something like that that you can start to make your bee home in. The other thing you're going to need is, we're going to insulate this. We don't want to make the bee a home that's going to be cold. So I've got materials for insulating. So this is just all dry grasses or dry plant cuttings. I've got sticks. Try and get a variety of sizes of sticks. Acorns. No, they're not acorns, are they? The pine cones. And then I've got some sort of logs in this one. Or if you can't get out and about, you can actually buy little tubes that are specifically made, you can see that in the camera, specifically made for making your bee homes. And you make sure you get ones that are environmentally friendly. So we're not looking at getting things like wood that has been bought from a do-it-yourself shop. You're wanting to find natural materials, and these ones, you can often get these on the internet, that are specifically water repellent, but also made from natural and bee friendly materials. So they're the things to make the home. We're also going to need some string. That's just going to be for the final touches, sort of decorating and suspending. Cardboard and some scissors. But what we're not going to need is things like glue, anything like that that might be dangerous for your bee. Okay, so let's get started with making it. Okay, so to make your bee house, the main principle is that we are going to need some sort of hollow, if you can see in there, like a little hollow tube for your bee to nest in. So many bees like nest in the ground, etc., but there are some varieties in the UK that do nest in ones that are hung aerial, so sort of hung up. So we're looking at making sure that you've got a little hollow, but also the rest of your container is insulated to keep them warm. So like I mentioned earlier, you can buy the paper hollows. These are easy to cut, so these are ones that I've cut up. The ones that you can buy, the little hollow tubes, really simple to cut with just a pair of scissors, so you don't need any specialist tools for that. If you haven't got those, another way of making the hollows is really simple, by just using your cardboard toilet roll tube. So it's literally about rolling it up and then sticking it together with the tape that we mentioned earlier. So I've made quite a few of my hollows from just cutting up the cardboard tape. Just to mention, if you are using a tin, most tins nowadays are those peel backs with the tin edges in there aren't so sharp. But if you are using them, you might want to wear gloves or something, just to save cutting your fingers on the tin when you're filling it, if that's one of the methods that you're using. So look, here's a tin that I started to fill with the more dried sticks and twigs. I've got loads of dried sticks and twigs in this one here. I'm starting to fill up. Yeah, so really it's about putting your hollows in and then filling it with the rest of your materials. So with the sticks, you don't have to use any tools. Just get some nice dry sticks that are easy to break. She says, not being able to break that one. It's not dry enough, but lots of little sticks. And then we're just putting it in. And the aim is to fill your container so that the bits stick in place without glue. Yes, so I'm packing it, jam packing the container with all the bits that I'm using, so that the things don't fall out without having to glue them. So if you can see that one's just snapped twigs along with some hollow tubes. A couple of hollow tubes in there, I think. Yeah, for the bees. Let's have a look. What's this one I started? Oh, so this is one you would need a saw or something to do this. So if you haven't got a saw, don't worry, but this is just to show you a different option. This is straight edges compared to your kind of cut edges, you know, just to get a different texture. You might want to hang a couple next to each other. Even though the bees are solitary, they do often have their own nests but near each other. This is one where, if you can see, good Lord, just lost a bit. You've got your sticks in there, and then I'm starting to fill it with these little hollows, which go on the floor. I'll show you that one. That's one where I just filled toilet roll tubes. So I made circles out of the toilet roll tube, and then I filled them with more little hollows and more little sticks. So that one's just got like a bit of a fancy design. So it's whatever you want to go for, but a very simple way of doing it is just the snap twigs, snapped by your hands and just stuffed into there with a hollow. Other little ideas is you could maybe start using pine, call them the right name, pine cones, not acorns. You can start popping them in there and maybe add some sticks. And then don't forget your hollows. The bees like those little, I think it's about 7 or 8 mil hollows to fit the bee. I think there's only a few species, well, no, not only a few species, there's one species, sorry, of bees in the UK that make their own holes out of bramble. So they bore their own hole into bramble, so you could always use maybe bramble. Obviously avoiding the spikes. So if you get the idea, this is another one that I made. This was bigger pieces of wood, and I just drilled the hollow into that. But again, if you've got no tools, not a bother at all. You just snap your sticks, pop them into your container of choice, and there we go. Right, so the next part we are looking at, if you don't like the idea of your bee home being made of a tin, you can always like decorate it or not decorate, you can camouflage it. So this is one that I've just taken some moss. This is where your string comes in handy firstly. Is I've just taken a bit of moss. You see what I'm doing there? And I'm just, that's not the moss, that's the soil bit. I've got loads of moss outside where I live. And I'm just starting to wrap the moss around the tin. And even if it dries, don't worry, it dries quite nicely. And it would just create a slightly more natural look on your tin. Another way of doing it would be maybe, you know, your dried cuttings, if you can see that. You could wrap those around your tin. I've got a plant pot, they look quite beautiful anyway. Or on this one, I don't know if you've seen those pens, they're called Posca pens, where you can draw on stones, glass, all sorts of things. On this one, I don't know if you can see, I've just started to decorate slightly. I'm drawing lemon balm on that one, leaves of a lemon balm plant. So decorate it slightly. There's a range of different things you can do to decorate it. You might have heard of like the little folk tale or the folk, what would it be called, like a folk sort of folklore, where in the olden days when people had beehives, if anybody in the family died, you would go out and you would tell it to the bees. So people used to go out, to say the master of the house would go out and they would tell the bees of a death, or even maybe a birth or a marriage. And you could tell the bees about the death, and if you didn't, it was said that the bees would themselves become ill and die, and therefore you would have no honey. And another thing that was also sort of said was that you could actually talk to the dead through the bees. So one of the things I was going to do is I've just made like a little, see that, a little scroll, and I'm going to write a message. So it's a way of communicating with the dead. So I'm just going to put my little message on there. Let's have a look. So I'm going to use my little Posca pen. Let's put that on there. That's my little message I'm going to tell to my bees. I'm going to scroll it. Which one will I put it in? I've got about 5 different nests on the go. Let's have a look, where's the one I've actually finished. So in this, I'm just going to put in my little scroll in one of those, pop it in there. It's my little message. See if that gets passed over to the other side. And there we go. There's our little bee home. Right, so we've got our our homes made, our little nests made. So we've got our like mixed one there. I think that was going to attract spiders as well as bees. And what else have I got? I've got this one here that was a little bit more formal looking in that old plant pot. Got that one, and then we've got the 3 that been made out of the tin cans with a little bit of moss on the top, just to kind of soften the metal up a little bit, so like the look of it. What I've done is I've tied my hemp around it, and this cord here has actually got it's slightly waxed, so when you hang it outside over the winter it won't rot, so it should be a little bit more secure. I'm actually going to hang this on my shed. I've got a shed next to, I've got a flower pot with Melissa in it, so that's lemon balm, and the bees. There's an old more folklore about if you had a hive, you would put your hive next to the lemon balm, and that would keep your bees happy, and your bees would make obviously lots of honey. So I think that's where that one is going to hang. I mean, the Melissa hasn't come up yet because it's early, well, it's spring tomorrow. But when it does come up, and hopefully it attracts some bees, the bees will be happy because they'll be next to my Melissa. So I'm just going to write on my little peg with my pen. I'm going to write Melissa officinalis, that's the name of lemon balm. Melissa officinalis. And I'm going to put that outside and hope we get some bees to come. There we go. Here we are outside, and I've placed one of them in my little barrel. It's kind of got woodland plants in it. I've got my foxglove, my primrose. I'm popping that there. See how we get on. See if we attract any creatures. And then here's my other. There we go, hanging off the shed next to the pot of lemon balm that's going to be coming up soon. And hopefully we will get some bees.